Hey everybody, this is Tony Wisler with my good friend Karla Vice, and
Hi,
it is time for Drive Facebook Live. Hey Karla, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a nice week after the expo. We have a very special guest with us today, a very good friend of Drive, a client of Drive, and a great shop owner. His name is John Starkey. He's based out of Hawaii. Hey John, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your shop, just and where it's at exactly, and all those good fun stuff.
Yeah, hey Tony and Carla and all the listeners out there. It's great to be here again on Facebook Live. I am out in Honolulu, Hawaii. I have well, it's actually a growing shop. We're at 19 bays now. I have about 15 employees, so obviously you can see that we have a lot more people to add to the shop. But for those who don't know, I had a big fire on December the 3rd, and we are bouncing back from that. So business is really good. Our numbers are great, and yeah, life is good. I just went surfing, and I made a pit stop to get on this
Nice.
on my way home.
Good to see you again. I'm
Good
glad
to
you
see you.
and I wanted to ask a little bit about that fire situation.
Yeah.
Did you have to just move the entire operation to a new location, or did you do it at or is it the same location?
Well, I had the option to move, and I believe that spot where we were, the fire was so big, it did about $1 million worth of damage that the time it would take to clean that up and just the mental drain on my staff. Some of them were actually there when it was burning, even though it caught fire pretty late at night. It was about 8:30 at night when the fire happened, but the call went out. One of my employees lives very close, and he notified a bunch of the other employees. They were actually there while the firefighters were fighting it. And I think that whole experience was so traumatic that it was best that we moved. So we did move to another location. My landlord is a very large property holder. They have 1,300 commercial tenants out here, and they moved us to a building directly behind ours. It actually butts up against our old shop, so it's not hard to find.
Very good. And was it the same size or was it much bigger?
So the old shop held 10 lifts. The new shop will hold 27 lifts.
Mm,
The
A
only
little
the only
bit bigger.
challenge, yeah, a little bit
A
bigger.
little
I
bit
I
bigger.
made I made enough my office. I made enough room for 9 service advisors. So we're going for it. I told Carla my new goal is 1 million a month, and I'll be damned if we're not going to hit it. That's my mission right now. So
wow.
we're on our way. We're 1/3 of the way there.
That is a great goal to
That's
go
awesome.
for. And
Yeah.
the reason why he said he told Carla is because some of you may not know this, but Carla is his coach here at Drive, and they have a very good relationship, and they're helping each other. And so Carla, do you have anything you want to tell us about John that no one else knows? A little,
Tell him I'm a
some
loose
gossip?
cannon.
Yeah, he's like a wildcat multiplied by 10.
But I do listen. I do listen.
Yeah, he does listen, and that's a good benefit. And one of the things is the resilience, I mean, it was a it was a big hit, having a fire in the shop, and here he is building back up and stronger and better and bigger than before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a barbecue fire. It was an inferno. It was
Yeah.
I was on my way to a funeral, and I got a cryptic text that there was a fire in the shop. And it's like, well, this would be our sixth fire. So, I think a lot of, well, shop owners, they know sometimes you have a little like vapor fire or something like that. You have a technician spraying brake clean on an engine while it's running, and it hits the exhaust manifold, and, you get a little fire. I thought it was something like that. And then they're like, no, 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 that's not what happened. It's like,
It's a
and then
little
I saw
bigger
the
than
video. Yeah,
that.
a little bit bigger than that. It burned for an hour before the fire department got in there, and there was an explosion. So, if you
That's
don't
rough.
laugh about it, you cry. So here we go. It makes me
Right.
laugh now.
Well, that's the problem with, the word fire. It could be a waste paper basket fire, or it could be,
Sure, sure.
so if they just say there's
Yeah.
like, can you be more specific,
Yeah, like one of the
About
computers caught fire.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, run away from it all.
Yeah, yeah. But
Well,
we're
So,
okay.
so you were at the expo, changing the subject really drastically, but you were at the
Yeah.
expo, and then you and David did a presentation, not David, sorry,
Larry,
Larry did a presentation on, you know, the exact subject, the fire and the adversity and how to deal with that. And you gave some suggestions to take away. What were some of those suggestions?
Yeah, I think, we all deal with adversity on a pretty regular basis in this industry, whether it's losing a key employee or getting into some financial problems, or you have a slump in your business, like wintertime, some places freeze or you get hit by a natural disaster. And I think that the number one thing I learned from this is your knee-jerk reaction is probably not the best thing to do. You need to sit back, you need to analyze the situation, you need to talk to a lot of people about what happened, and you have to devise a plan as to how to deal with it. I think, I got back after the funeral I was at, dove in, went in the shop. You could hardly breathe in there. The air was so toxic. And I knew that probably wasn't what I should do, but that's your natural reaction. We as business owners are drawn to problems, and you got a problem, you dive in. But I think that making a plan and talking to a lot of people, Drive has 80, I think 80 something employees, and I know a lot of them. I can feel like I can call any one of your coaches. I can even, call you Bill, and I can call anybody over there and say, hey, I've got a problem over here. Can somebody help me? And I think that that was one of the things that I really learned from going through what I went through, and what I've learned through the process. And some of my peers at Drive were instrumental in getting me on track fast to recovery, because I was bleeding out $9,000 a day, for about a month and a half. And it was money that I didn't really have. So, that's another thing, is prepare. I know they talk about stashing cash, and you're like, I don't have any to stash, but what, that should be the first little bit of money you put somewhere as your reserves. And I've started, doing that. I had a little, but I didn't have enough. So,
right.
staying calm, I think, is the biggest thing, you know, in
Yeah.
during adversity. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
another lesson was making sure that your insurance is
Well,
updated.
yeah, yeah, that's a big one.
Hmm.
We all have well, hopefully we all have insurance, and a lot of us, like myself, I got insurance and I never revisited my garage keeper's insurance. I did revisit the number of cars I have covered inside the shop, but I never revisited my personal assets. And the way insurance works is, if you have $2 million in things and you have $1 million of coverage, okay, and you have a fire that does $1 million in damage, it sounds like you're getting $1 million, right? No, you're getting 500,000, because you are 50% self-insured. And that is so important to understand, that if you are self-insuring it and something happens, they're paying out whatever percentage of it they insure, and you get to cover the rest. So that was a learning lesson, I think that's
Yep.
very important to understand about insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. The other thing was, you talked about having that reserve account. We always
Hmm.
say start putting money in the reserve account now, and start and don't touch it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I always used to say don't, you know, obviously if you say don't ever touch it, then my thought is first goes to what's the point of having it then? So my point is always never touch it unless the life of the shop is in danger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, I
then,
remember. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I remember I had a class with you, and I remember you talked about the reserve account, and I had not $1 in my reserve account, and I think you were the one who told me, even if it's $10, you should put something in there, and it should be the first money that comes in the shop for the month should go in there. And I started my reserve account, and I think I had it up around like 50 or 60 grand when the fire happened. So
Mm.
at least I had some money, you know,
Right.
because I would have had none, because you always think if you're broke that I don't have any money to put in there. It doesn't matter how broke you are, you always have something to put in there. You know, you
Yeah.
you feel broke because you spend it all.
Yeah, and money is right
Yeah.
because and money is funny because it's like a fluid. Like all you have to do is get a little stream going, and then
Yeah.
it'll keep going, even if it's that. That's why it's always when I was taught that when I was very young. Even if you are totally dead broke, find $1 and just put it in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever account you're putting it in there, whether it's your, for
Hmm.
sometimes it's a reserve account for something I want to purchase or something. Just start putting money in a little at a time, and then eventually it'll grow. And I'm glad you had that money in there. Obviously, it wasn't fully enough, but at least it was there. It was very helpful.
Yeah, it
Um,
held over my family, and it helped me to get kind of like buy some things that I needed to buy. And, the thing about a reserve account is you can't afford to not have a reserve account. It almost sounds like a weird statement, but you really can't afford not to have one, because when something happens, that could put you under. And the whole goal here is to make our businesses as bulletproof as we can. And that's the only way to really do it.
right.
Yeah, and I think it's even more valid now with what we've been seeing, hurricanes and
Oh,
earthquakes and,
everything,
you know,
Yeah.
everything.
tsunamis and everything that's been happening seems more often. I don't know if it is, but it just seems that way. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the expo. How did you like the
Yeah.
expo?
Oh, it was great. There's I really enjoy the expos. I've never missed one since I joined Drive. It's as important to me as if one of my children were getting married. I just get so much information out of them. um there's no way I would ever miss one. So I've gotten to know so many of Drive's clients. I've gotten to know your staff, and it's like it's not just seeing everybody. It's all that little small dinner talk, that happens, and hearing about people's challenges and successes. And nevertheless, and I haven't even talked about the expo content yet. It's just being at the event. And I don't we're in Vegas. I don't go and leave and go gamble during the sessions. I go and I attend them all. And Rescue Net, I mean, that was Rescue Net, that's the name of it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
um yeah, that, Tim's presentation was spot on. I think one of my peers bought, gosh, I don't know how many of those units he bought, but I think he bought like about 10 of them to back up his power. And I'm getting ready to buy a bunch of them too. And just the fact, you think about like, what happens if I go down, my phones go down? How much does that cost me? And it's a lot. Our phones ring off the hook. And what he was talking about the ability for it to switch over immediately in your 5G, and you'll never even know it until you get your report that the system is actually out. I mean, why would you not be interested in something like that? If you made a decision to be a business owner, or you made a decision to have employees, and if you have family, it's your duty as a business owner to do the very best you can and make wise decisions. And I don't know how you can look at what they do and say that's not a wise decision for my business. Again, you
Yeah.
learn things like that at the expo. I would never know about Rescue Net if you guys didn't introduce him to him. And meeting him, like I watched his Facebook live show, but then meeting him and talking to him and really understanding exactly what it is and how it works was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love things like that. And it goes on and on and on and on and on.
And that's really great. I had one question. What'd you think about some of the releases that we were putting out this
I was
expo?
gonna go right into it, but I didn't want to be the only one that talks here.
No, go ahead.
You're the guest, so
you
go
know, you know, you,
away.
you know me. I love to talk. I love Kevin and I. We when we get together, it's a fight to see who gets to talk first. But so we yeah, no, I love Techmetric. I really like the shop management software that I use now. And I thought when I first heard what Bill was going to do, or his vision, and my instant reaction was, Drive's a coaching company. They're not a software company; they're a coaching company. But what I saw at the expo, it just flipped my whole thought process about what he's developing. And he does have a software background, so he does understand a lot about what we need. And when I saw the solution, I thought, wow, this looks exactly like what I'm using now. Like it's taken all of the best features. And the fact that Drive is a coaching company, like what happens when you get a new software package is they onboard you and then they pretty much delete you out of their system. Like it's kind of like, okay, you got a year on your own. Good luck, kid.
Yeah.
But I know Drive being a coaching company that your goal for us, if we opt to use the solutions that you're developing, is to make sure that we fully understand them. And not only do we understand them, but we're utilizing them to the max of their potential. And I think that's where a lot of people fail in everything you buy. It doesn't matter. I was that VCR guy back in the day who bought the one with the most buttons and only used play. I think that you guys will make sure that
That
we
was
will
funny.
succeed. Yeah, remember that? We were all there, right? We're old enough, this group
We
here.
can
Um,
relate.
I didn't say 8-track. I'm not that old.
Well, I
But
had eight
we,
track. I had 8-track.
you got me by a year or two. But I'm really, really excited about not just the shop management software tool, but all the rest. Like, we all use credit card processors and we pay a lot of money to them. And then they raise your fees without you even knowing it. And the fact that Bill is interested in taking these solutions, these services that all of us, we have probably 6 different companies that we outsource all this stuff to, from our marketing to our credit card processing to our CRM, to you name it, right? We outsource a lot of stuff. And I think that to have it all bundled together, it does a couple of things for you. First of all, it's one thing to worry about, it's one bill, and it's one company that's going to help us maximize it. But even more than that, I think the importance of having Carla seeing firsthand what we're doing inside my shop, there you couldn't even put a value on that, because the thing
Mhm.
about the business is that whatever Carla knows about my shop is what I've told her. She has never been to my shop yet. She's coming, but she hasn't been there yet. I'm trying to get her out there. Um,
You had to burn
it's
it so I wouldn't come.
I had to burn
Yeah,
it.
how
I had to
hard could
burn
it
it.
be?
I had to burn it down. But so she knows my shop. She's seen a lot of pictures of my shop. She's talked to some of my employees. She talks to me every week. But the real nitty gritty of how we run our shop, and like, let's take for example some our work orders. She can get into the SMS, which I'm all a fan of, and look at, okay, Kai is writing tickets this way, Ryan's writing tickets that way, and my new writer's writing tickets that way. And hey, you guys, maybe you guys seem to be leaving a little bit out here. This is how we find to be best practices. And just that ability to give you guys the insight into our businesses, I think is very, very valuable. And that's not the goal of the SMS. I get it. That's not what the goal of it is. But to have the ability, if I choose to do so, to give you guys that insight into my business, I think was going to make Carla that much better of a coach, as far as she will really have a good insight into my company. And that and I'm not from this industry. Everything I do I learned, and most of it I learned through Drive, because I was 500 grand in the red when I joined you guys, and
Mm.
now we're doing awesome. So thanks to all you guys in your company. I'm a big fan of this, as you know. And I always say, if I could do it, anybody could do it, because I didn't know anything about this business. Now I feel
Right.
like I know a lot, but I didn't know anything at the beginning. So I love that the apps and the integration, and just, I mean, if you're crazy if you don't at least look at it. And I feel like I'm selling it, and I don't want to sound like I'm selling it, because I'm not selling it. I'm just telling you, I, as a business owner, think that all of us have a duty to our industry to build the very best business we can, because this industry is struggling in a lot of ways. And it's up to us to be leaders and shore up the walls of this industry and make sure that it thrives moving forward, because I've seen a lot of really, really bad trends in this industry. You have not enough people coming into the industry, all the old guys getting out. Some owners aren't able to pay enough money to keep good technicians. We have to fix these problems. It's up to us to make sure that this industry thrives in the future. And
Yeah.
this is where it happens, right here.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's part of the vision too, is that it's to improve the industry, but and it's also to improve everybody who operates within the industry to the point where they're living their lives the way they want to live them, right? Less,
Absolutely, absolutely. I just went surfing. What time is it here? It's 10 o'clock. We've been open for a couple hours,
that's
but I'll be
awesome.
back. I'm going back soon.
That
But I
is
mean,
awesome.
after the fire, like my immediate thought was, oh, I guess I'm done surfing and foiling. I'm done, for a couple years. I got to rebuild this company. But if you get things back in place, you can go have some fun right away. You just have to put the engine together and make sure that you have good people in place that you can trust, that you can pay enough money. I think that's the one thing I really took away actually from this expo in particular was some of the amounts of money that the employees are being paid nowadays. I'm thinking, gosh, I got to make sure. And I gave my key technicians raises recently. I want to keep making sure that they have good lives too. It's not about John getting rich, about all of us having a great life. And that's what I'm building is a great shop. And I want to be that shop that everybody on this island wants to work at. That's my goal. And I love selling us. I sell us to anybody who will listen.
That's beautiful. Hey,
All
hey, I
You
think it's
know?
time for a commercial break. You guys want to, we'll take a
right.
little break for a second. So I want to let everybody know that next Friday, October 3rd at 12:30 p.m., 3:30 Eastern, our show will have on it um, two people who have done so much to help the industry and so much to help drive. Larry Monroe and Martha Seidler will be on the show. And of course, I will be on the show, but Carla is not going to be on the show next week. We'll have Bill Escalillo will be the co-host with me, and that's next week's show, people. And also, I want to mention that we have just added a new networking meeting onto our client portal for you guys who are clients. We have a heavy duty meeting that happens once a month, and you can look at the client portal and find out when that is. I believe it's the second Wednesday. Is that correct, Carla?
It's the second Wednesday of the month, and the first one that we're having is going to be on the 8th of October, and it's basically networking for heavy duty. So if you're a heavy duty, just come over. We're going to have fun.
Awesome. And then we also added another networking meeting. We have a very successful owner to owner meeting that we do. We've been doing it for a while now, where owners get together and they just network and they brainstorm and they just help each other out. And that owner to owner meeting has been very successful. That's been going for a while now. We just added to the calendar today um, an owner to owner meeting for Spanish speaking clients that Kimberly and G will be hosting. And that first meeting will be next week. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And if I'm not mistaken, October 1st is next Wednesday, right?
Yep,
I think
you
that's
got
it.
it right.
So that's the first one. And so those are the two new additions to the calendar if you guys want to take a look at it. So that's the commercial break. Now we're back to the show. Hey,
All
John.
right.
Well,
Hey.
Brittany says hello.
Oh,
Awesome.
Brittany's
Brittany's
watching the show
awesome.
and she says
Brittany in
hello.
San Diego, Lake
Yeah.
Elsinore.
Yes,
Lake Elsinore.
Awesome. Awesome.
yes.
Yeah, I think that one thing that is really hard for some clients, even us who I've been in now for what 5 years with you guys, to really understand everything that Drive offers, and when you're talking about the classes and you're talking about like all the different apps you guys have, it's something that is if you really want to take your shop to a level, which I am so happy. We got 4 very high level awards. My group did, my top 20 group at the expo. I'm so proud of all of them that achieved those goals. And if you want to achieve those goals, the way to do that is to spend time working on your shop. And the way you work on your shop is you dig into Drive's tools and you learn how to use them, you utilize them, you ask questions about them. It's all about learning and figuring out how to run a better shop. And you guys do a great
Beautiful.
job of helping us do that, and we appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody else does.
Well, thank you for that, and we appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
so, so tell us a little bit about what's happening today on the island, because I've never been there, and It seems like it's a little far away, but
Yeah,
so give us a
Only 5 hours from
sorry about that. It is a
LA.
little bit far away. Well, here these guys all came up here, and that's my jet ski, and all these little chickens came up to see what we're talking about, and we've got a lot. We got a lot of chickens and roosters and everything. No, no. Today it's a beautiful day. It's about 80 degrees. It's this is my favorite time of the year because the waves are coming in on the North Shore, the South Shore. The wind dies. It's a fun time of the year here in Hawaii. It's a great time actually to visit because the tourism is down because it's just not the peak season. Summer and winter are peak seasons. So if you want to have a great vacation and come check out my shop, come visit, and you can write the whole thing off. It's maybe I could get you some local discounts.
there you go.
But it's a great place to live. I love Hawaii. It's hard to leave here, but with what I've learned, like I couldn't possibly have this life I have if I didn't join, drive, and pay attention, because and you can join and not pay attention. So,
No, that's
there's
true.
I think that what I learned and the inner drive I have in myself, and I've never done things like mediocre. I don't just tiptoe into things. I kind of dive in head first, and I think this is another good example of what you can achieve if you put your mind to it and you you not just learn, but you have to execute what you learned. Like I know shop owners who have so much knowledge in their head, but they don't really implement it in their shop. And I'm sure they're frustrating to coach because you tell them to do something and they don't do it. And it's like, if you want to get results, you have to take action. You absolutely have to take action. You want to lose weight, you got to diet and exercise. I mean, you can think about it all day long, but it doesn't just fall off your body. It would be nice
Yeah.
if it did, unless you're on what's that drug called?
Awesome.
Ozempic.
Ozempic, whatever that's called.
But you're
So
you're right because you can read hundreds of books and you're not gonna lose 1 ounce
ounce.
if you don't
Yeah,
take action. And that's
yeah.
kind of like what everybody in the awards dinner, right? Like that was like a
Yeah,
common
yeah,
theme, right? Like when I
absolutely.
started doing what my coach told me, when I actually was started to
Yeah,
apply what I learned, that's when things
yeah,
actually started changing. And that
yeah,
was like a common theme along
yeah,
the
Yeah.
yeah. And
hour.
what's so fun is when you do things and you see the results, and the results are good, and you get a little money in the bank, and you get a little more money in the bank, a little, and then you're like, oh wow, this is really like you pat yourself on the back. I'm proud of what I have achieved, and I know a lot of my peers are too. It's like we've done a really really good job, some of us, at building these shops, and I don't brag. I'm just proud. It might
Right.
sound like bragging sometimes, but I'm damn proud of what my team and I have achieved, and we will continue to achieve.
That's awesome.
We don't pump the brakes ever. We're like pedal to the metal all the time. I don't see how just cruising or being content. If you're in a coaching program and you're paying a lot of money, then you have to act on what you're learning. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Otherwise, why do it? If you're making yourself, it's like getting a gym membership and never ever going.
I
Why
know people
join?
Right.
like that.
Why
But
join?
but I want to say, but I do want to say, don't be embarrassed about taking great satisfaction in the hard work and the
Thank
things you've
you.
achieved. I mean, like,
Yeah,
because you should. I mean,
I'm proud.
that's what hard work's about, right? It's
Yeah,
you feel
yeah.
very good about it and you have something to look at or to have that you've done
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that and there's nothing wrong with talking about it, like it's
Yeah,
not bragging, it's just a fact. You
yeah,
worked hard and you achieved some good things and I feel like it's the thing that motivates people to really want to work. That's why a lot of people
yeah,
that aren't very hard workers aren't always necessarily very gratified
yeah.
or they're not very they're just kind of not very happy and because they don't and I think that hard work is it's good
Absolutely.
and that's
We
where the
kick
work
butt.
begins. The work begins after the consulting call.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is so true. That is so true. Talk is talk, but action is that's where the rubber meets the road, and we do it. We go for it.
Yeah,
And it's nice to have a drive clientele base of peers that cheer each other on because we push each other hard, really hard. We hold each other accountable. I don't let my friends slack. I try to push them hard.
I love it. I
That's
love to hear
good.
Yeah.
that. Well,
Diana's
Yeah.
watching.
very nice.
Hi,
Well,
Deanna. Love
we're
her.
up against the clock, folks. I think that's the end of the
Well,
show.
it always goes fast. We need
It
an
does
hour
go
when I'm on.
fast.
When
It
I'm on, we
goes,
need an hour.
yeah. Well, maybe we will. We'll like the Twilight Zone in the fifth season. We'll go an hour long. We'll see. That's a ridiculous
When
old
Johnny's
television
on,
reference.
it's gonna be an hour.
Yeah.
So, any last words before we call it a day?
I just want to thank all you guys, for the great expo you put on, for really pushing us all the time, and just holding us accountable, and really pushing that as like the pillar of success is based around accountability, and even when we get awards, when we get those masters awards and stuff like that, Larry doesn't just trust you what you say. He makes you send in all the supporting data to back up what you're telling him you do. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So thank you so much to you guys, and thank you to the Drive, client base. I love everybody, and Bill's vision's spot on with what you guys are doing. So as we
Well,
say in Hawaii, mahalo and aloha.
you're very welcome,
Mahalo.
and we're gonna call it a day. That's it, everybody.
All
We'll see you
right.
next Friday on the next Drive Facebook Live.